Colonial Beach Olympic and Sprint. We will be doing this one together. The Olympic cutoff times are 1 hour for the swim, bike 3 hours, you have to be done by then, and then run 4 hours total race time. The swim, it's a pretty straightforward swim with a couple different caveats in it. There are shells at the start. It might be a little tough on your feet, so make sure you put your feet in the water at the very beginning or leading up to the race. There's 2 athletes released every couple of seconds, self-seated, so ask around, and it is a scheduled start time of 6:50 a.m. both days. What that means is it's going to be an early start, and you will hopefully avoid some of the heavy heat later on in the day. In my experience, it doesn't always work, and this race is routinely hot every single year. And the currents play a big role on this one. So this is the swim over here. This is the Olympic swim, and if I fast forward, this is the sprint swim. So that red section out on the bottom, you do not swim that out there. So going back to the Olympic, the first turn buoy out to that point is, you got to get there fast. And once you get beyond that point, you really need to establish yourself or get into a group somewhere in these first 2 sighting buoys. Ideally, this first one, the earlier the better that you can get into that group. If someone is there with you, make sure you're riding their wake and having them do some of the work. Currents over here usually go in a cross pattern over. So it depends where it's going, in versus out or vice versa. What has happened in the past is the currents will be starting off down here and will be pushing against you when you're coming out, but will actually be pushing the water further out. So you'll be swimming kind of aiming at this second turn buoy, and they'll be just kind of swimming sideways or crabbing in the water. Other years, the current has been from this sighting, or this turn buoy, all the way back into the finish, and it throws you back in. So it just depends on what year you are in. Either way, you need to identify this early on, and if it is the version where you're getting thrown all the way out to the bottom half of the swim course, you need to change your pace accordingly. So you're going to be doing this swim a lot on effort. So any of the swims that you had leading up until this point, use those efforts as a guideline, and if you find that you're going over those efforts, then bring it back down, especially when you're going down current. That's because if you turn and you're going into a head current, you're going to have to pick up the effort even though your speed is going to go down. Jellyfish are super likely at this race. They won't be super populated, at least that's how it's been in years past, but there will be a couple scattered here and there. The sun will make this first turn buoy a little hard to see, and believe it or not, these first 2 sighting buoys. Draft as you can. The start is not super chaotic, and the boardwalk is a good little gauge of sighting. So if you are having trouble finding some of these other buoys, you can do so off of the boardwalk, and just know that you'll be out in this point over here. This is the sprint swim right here. A big difference here is you're going to need to back things off right through here, but your kick is going to be high. This is the turn right through here, so it looks like, I don't know if they're going to have a turn buoy right here, a triangle one. If not, it is the second sighting buoy, but make sure you have identified that on race morning and you have listened to some of the comments that are happening. The bike course. This is the Olympic bike course. It is an out and back. The sprint bike course is a counterclockwise circle. And we'll go through both of them really quickly here. Big thing that you're going to be battling out on this course is not total elevation. It's going to be wind, believe it or not. The Olympic does bring in a little bit of hills in there, and you can see it's about 1,200 feet of climbing. A lot more hillier than people realize out on this venue. It's going to be a hard start. Be ready for the headwinds right after you make that right turn off of the stoplight. Usually they're coming off of the water and it throws you out in that first little section. And once you make that right-hand turn, be ready to rock and roll, especially coming back in. Coming back in is where a lot of people lose places. It's easy to fly out, show up and blow up. It's really hard to maintain that pace, so make sure you're watching your numbers, which we'll talk about in a second here. Aero position, because you have the capability to kind of hang out in this aero position a lot, people just stay locked in there. So over the course of this race, you're going to want to get out 4 or 5 times at least. Just kind of change the position up. You're going to want to keep the speed high when you're doing so, but make sure you are getting out of that position. There was a lot of flyers in the first 5 miles. Make sure you are not one of them unless you are holding that pace for the duration of the bike. Bigger athletes will fly on this race course, so if you are not a bigger athlete, make sure you are keeping them in your sights. Typically those bigger athletes or heavier athletes are more punchy on the pedals, and on a course like this, it favors some of those athletes. This is the elevation grade over here, so first 5 miles you're going to want to establish yourself and get fuel, but don't give away this section right here. So you're gonna, if it was me, I would slowly ramp things up throughout these first 5 miles, and then we'll kind of cap off with that first big hill right through here. It's hard, don't overdo it, but it should be hard, and maintain that speed coming downhill. And then this middle section right through here is I call this the maximum race potential area. Any attack that you have should be probably right before this 10-mile mark, and just maintain that high effort level. This is going to be the most bang for your buck. And then coming back in, it's a inverse of what you did because it's an out and back. Again, you're going to be going up the downhill that you were just doing on the way out. So make sure, again, it's hard, but you are not overdoing it and watching some of those numbers. Once you get to the top here, you're going to want to keep the power high to race finish and just keep that speed up. Okay, you can see here, these are the 2 hills, these red circles right through here, and the green sections are going to be places where you should have a high rate of speed, and your power shouldn't be super high coming back in or out. Bike course for the sprint. It is a counterclockwise loop, about 170 feet. Again, you're going to be battling wind is the main thing that you're going to be battling, and other egos. Again, similar to the Olympic, you're going to want to be ready to work once you get out past the stoplight. Once you hang that right-hand turn, you are working. If it's not ready, or you're not ready, then you're going to do the work from this left-hand turn, and you're going to be flying back into town. A 1-loop course, aero position. You're going to want to maximize that aero position as best you can. It's going to be a little opposite of the Olympic, so you're going to want to get out maybe 2 or 3 times just to change it a little bit. And that is the bike, believe it or not. It's pretty flat here. You can see the elevation profiles are 50 to 100 feet right here. Again, you want to be fast, but you want to be in control. Food, nutrition are going to be key here on this sprint course. This is going to be the point where you're going to be able to absorb the most. So keep that in mind on race day and your fueling strategy. You should be going hard in these next 5 or 4 miles through here. This is the hardest point out on course. The section right through here, right? And again, this is going to be the point where you're going to have your highest power output out on the course, and coming back into town, your speed should be high all the way to the finish, even if your power starts to drop a bit. And you can see here, this is exactly what happens. Power ideally stays up high when you're coming back into the finish, but if not, make sure that speed is high. And this is about as steady as a race gets. Aid stations on the bike, there are none. Plan what you need to bring for the sprint and Olympic. These are the common penalties out on course, so you can go back and review those. The run course is the run course is not 2 loops. The run course is a single loop course. It's a flat course. There is not a lot of shade. It is always hot. When you come out of the transition up here, you will have to hang a left. And you will have to do a small out and back before you are on the main course right here. You might have a slight breeze, but in my experience over the last 4, 5, 10 years of this course, that breeze that you expect to have is not there, and it becomes a hot and humid battle out here on the course. Bring your sunscreen and make sure you put it on if it is a really sunny day. If there are aid stations with ice, make sure you are utilizing some of those ice aid stations early and often. Do not wait until it gets too hot to start hitting the ice. You want to keep your core temperature down as you're going through here. So if you are fueling with Gatorade, make sure you're grabbing a couple cups of Gatorade, fueling with that, and then make sure you also grab some water here and dump it all over your body, your head, your chest, your back, all of those areas. to help keep you cool. It's going to be one of the only courses I'm going to actively tell you to do that, but it is going to set you up for success. The waterfront can lull you into some slower paces, so stay strong, be mentally there the whole race. Very, very common for athletes to walk on this run course, and that's okay. You can do a walk-run interval straight from the get-go, and usually those are the athletes that come out of this with higher success rates. Make sure you're watching your numbers. I would have put a similar course like this up here for the run, but it's very, very flat. So it's going to be purely down to you and your pacing on this course. Target other people in front of you and remember your targets. Watch them, and just if it's too hard to get to that race target, back it down by 20 watts or 10 seconds per mile and reevaluate and go from there. It's going to be a battle of manipulating some of those efforts and just reacting to the course conditions on race day. Aid stations, they say, are going to be about every mile apart, and they typically are here. They've usually offered Gatorade or water. I don't know if they're going to offer a whole lot else, maybe some gels, but that is pretty much it at some of these races. And that is it. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll be talking to you more on an individual basis about specific numbers and targets and all that good stuff. Good luck, everybody.